Well, welcome, viewers. Welcome to our weekly Bond and Bodis Law Offices Facebook Live. I want to welcome you, and I say weekly, but we've actually missed the last couple of weeks, and I'll go ahead and tell you right now, since we started this up, it's the first time we've missed a couple of weeks, and it's because I personally came down with COVID about 2.5 weeks ago, and fortunately, I had a very mild case and was able to quarantine at home and have recovered fully. So we're back to Facebook Live. We'll be doing this on a weekly basis. Just as a reminder, folks, the Bond and Bodis Law Offices are located throughout Alabama, throughout Mississippi, and we're in the Knoxville area in Tennessee. And we help people with money problems. We know a lot of folks have been through some difficult times last 9-10 months. People have lost jobs. People have had to shut down businesses. If you need help, be proactive. We're offering absolutely free initial consultations. We'll do it for your safety from the comfort of your home or your office. We'll do it by phone or we'll do it by video like today. But reach out for help. Consultations are free and we want to help you if we can. I'm really excited about today's Facebook Live. So we've tried to touch on different topics over the last few months, different issues that affect people during this pandemic. And today we're going to touch on one of the most important topics. You'll remember a few weeks ago during our last episode, we talked about getting kids back to school and the issues with kids being homeschooled and schooled via video. Well, we're going to talk about our other kids today, the furry ones. We're going to talk about our pets. And we are very fortunate to have Dr. Mike Kilgore with the Homewood Animal Hospital. Dr. Mike, I used your full name to get started, but as I understand it, all of your customers, everyone refers to you as Dr. Mike. So if that's good with you, I'm going to refer to you as Dr. Mike today, and welcome to our show.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me.
We want to talk today about pets and COVID from a variety of different perspectives. We want to talk about whether or not our pets can carry the COVID, whether they can transmit it to others. We want to talk just about taking care of our pets, both during and the pandemic and after we all are able to get back to going into our offices. So Dr. Mike, before we get started, I've heard of you for many, many years. You have a great reputation. Your practice is in Homewood, which is just outside of Birmingham, for those viewers that are outside of the Birmingham area. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your background and how long you've been doing this type of work.
Okay, well, I'm a dinosaur. I graduated from Auburn's vet school in 1982, so I've been doing this for a while, almost for 40 years. I've been at Homewood Animal Hospital for, I think this is our 21st, maybe the beginning of our 22nd year, starting actually this month. So, yeah, we've been hanging around for a while and kind of grow slowly over time. And now we've moved to my doctor practices with me, and we actually have two other vets that are working with us right now. So we're trying to do the best we can to accommodate this plethora of puppies that we've seen since the COVID started.
Well, you said that you've been at it close to 40 years. I thought I'd been practicing law for a long time. I've just passed the 30-year mark a couple of years back, but in all that time, I've never seen anything like this last year. I'm sure it's been somewhat different for you too, treating pets and dealing with pet care during a pandemic. And we just want to talk about some of the different issues. We all love our pets. We love our dogs. We love our cats. Some of us love dogs. Others love cats. Not necessarily everybody love them both. But we want to talk with a pet expert, somebody that knows about pets, about some of the issues that are impacting our pets during this pandemic. I do have to start by, I like to learn a little bit about our guests' backgrounds. The thing that really made me impressed with you, all of your reviews online are very positive, Dr. Mike, but one of your customers made it a point to say, not only does he take good care of my pets, but he usually ends it by kissing my dog on the nose before he gets done. So
you got to be careful with that one. Not all of them are that quite appreciative of my services.
Well, I've most of the reviews I read are very, very favorable. So I want to touch on several things, but let's start with the big issue out there that people are concerned with. Pets and whether or not they are able to actually have the COVID virus, and then whether or not they're able to pass it on to others. Tell us what we need to know about this, Dr. Mike.
Okay, well, there's obviously a lot of myths and concerns and misconceptions about COVID, and they're learning new stuff about it every day. So what we learn today might be a lie tomorrow. But I think when they first came out with it, they were very concerned about pets and interactions with people and pets. And there have been a few instances where pets, cats and dogs, and even the big cats and the zoos ended up getting COVID from humans. As far as I know, I don't think there's been any cases of any pets transmitting COVID to humans. They're always worried about, when the COVID first came out, they were worried, being real anal about surfaces and stuff like that. And, we used to, do what we could do with the dogs to try and avoid, too much contact using gloves with them. And since then, I've kind of backed off on that. I don't feel like that it's really a danger to pick up COVID from the surface of your pet or from your pet to be able to transmit it as a respiratory disease the way we do to each other with it. So I think that's something that we can kind of put back in our minds. I'm sure that there's some odd cases where, things have been a little bit different, but for the most part, our pets are not a source of infection for us from the COVID.
So the question I had, we have a golden retriever, Rusty. My wife refers to him actually as our grand dog. He was my son's dog, and my son took a job out of state, so we became golden retriever grandparents. Love our dog. But while I had COVID, the question was, as I was quarantining in one part of the house, whether it was safe for the dog to go back and forth from one room to another. What is your advice there? If somebody is quarantining in one part of the house, is it safe for the animal, the pet generally, to go back and forth?
I think so. I don't think that, your dog's coat is going to be a big transmitter of the COVID. Obviously, if you're coughing and hacking and sneezing on your dog and someone immediately comes in contact with it, there's a possibility that they could pick up some surface particles that could be a source of infection. But I feel like that's it's pretty minimal risk. From what I understand at the most, it's the air we share that's the most important thing, not the surfaces, including our pets, that are a real problem with it. So, I think, obviously when you were quarantined, you needed a little bit of interaction from somebody, and Rusty going back and forth between your wife, I don't feel like that's putting her at risk to pick it up from you through him.
Well, that's good to know, because we neither one of us could have done without being around our dog during that time. And fortunately, my wife did not become sick or become infected. So to our viewers, Dr. Mike, we're giving very general information here. You always should be cautious, but your pet's an important part of your healing. I can say that. And Dr. Mike, there have been a lot of negatives with this pandemic, but there have also been some positives. You told me your hospital's been very busy. Your practice has been very busy. What's kept you busy during this pandemic? Anything in particular?
I have seen more puppies and kittens over the last 10 months than I probably had 2 years before that. It's brought in a whole bunch of new clients, which is nice and wonderful, but it's just tremendous how many people have decided that, okay, I'm at home right now. This is a good time to get a puppy, to house train them, because if they're working all the time, house training a puppy is not the easiest thing to do. I usually tell my clients I love seeing puppies in my practice. Seeing them in my home is not nearly as much fun because they do require a lot of work. But if you're home all the time and able to do that house training can come a little bit easier because you're there and available all the time to reinforce them the proper ways to go with it. So.
That's great. I've read articles that have talked about pet adoption numbers have gone up just dramatically, and that's what you're seeing. I'm just asking this question as I thought of it, but your perspective, you've been working with pets for a long, long time. If somebody wants to go out and they want a new puppy, they want a new kitten, mm-hmm. What's the best route to go generally, Dr. Mike?
Well, there's a lot of different options. Some people go to a breeder, and it's best to research those to get reputable breeders because, as in anything else, there's a lot of people that like to capitalize on, kind of a demand for puppies and stuff like that. But, you got your reputable breeders, you have your shelters. Breeders are great to get puppies from and breed specific dogs. Shelters are great to get puppies from, and also adult dogs that need homes. And some people want to adopt an adult dog and not have to go through the house training stuff. So there's a lot of advantages to that. With a puppy, you're not sure how their personality is going to be until they grow up and become an adult. When you adopt an adult dog, then you pretty well know what you're dealing with pretty quickly on that. And most of the adoption centers and rescue groups and stuff like that are very interested in it being a good, positive fit for both you and the dog or the cat. They want everybody to be happy with it. And a lot of them try this as a foster type situation. And if it doesn't work out, then, reach out to us and we'll find, the appropriate pet for you and the appropriate home for that pet too. So it's like I said, it's a wide variety of different sources that we're dealing with, and it all kind of depends on people's personal preferences to what avenue they want to pursue.
Is it a good idea, if you're considering adopting a pet from a breeder or from other source, to perhaps bring that pet to a trusted veterinarian beforehand in order to make sure you're aware of any problems that the pet may have?
And I think that's a really good point. And what I usually tell my clients, if you're dealing with a breeder, ask them up front. Say, hey, is it okay if I take this puppy to my veterinarian and have them check it out to make sure they're starting off with a good, healthy pet that's going to serve the needs that they want? And if you have a breeder that balks at that, then I tell them to turn around and go the other way. Most breeders are very encouraging to the new owners to take that dog or cat to the vet immediately so that they know they started with a good, healthy pet. And they're, any breeder that doesn't agree with that is somebody's probably more in it for the money than anything else. If you've got somebody that's agreeing to do that. I mean, I had a client the other day that adopted a pet, that the pet got sick and the breeder has paid for all the medical bills from that. And that's an outstanding thing there. So trying to get a good feel for the integrity of the breeder themselves is a very important thing. And starting off, I think it's the best thing to do within the first 24, 48, 36 hours, whatever it is that you've got to see that puppy, to bring them in and let's make sure we're having a good start and doing everything right from the beginning. Make sure it's a good fit for both of them.
Yeah, I think that's if the breeder is, as you say, if the breeder is hesitant to allow you to have a veterinarian look at the dog or the cat beforehand, red flags need to go up.
Definitely. Yeah. Most good breeders are going to encourage you to do that as opposed to shy away from it.
I would encourage folks, though, make that early on in the process, because once that puppy or that kitten's around for a while, you're going to get
once you got the hook in the mouth, then you're dead in the water then. So make that decision very early so that you can make it's easy to make a rational decision. Sometimes it's more difficult to make an emotional decision.
Yeah, speaking of emotional issues, though, you're obviously a pet lover. You've been in the business for decades. Can you talk to the emotional connection between pets and their owners? I remember when my dad was older before he passed away. He became attached to his dog at that point. I talked about how when I was sick recently, just having that dog around, having that pet as a companion was important. But what have you seen during your practice about that emotional attachment that can grow between a pet and their owner?
Well, the relationship, the human animal bond relationship has changed pretty dramatically in my lifetime. I mean, when I was growing up and people had dogs, most of them were outdoors. Now they're in the bed with us. They're more family members than anything else with it. They do. I always, used to go talk to a lot of elementary schools and talk to these kids about, these dogs provide what we call unconditional love. They're going to love you no matter what, whether you deserve it or not. And on a daily basis, they give you that. You come home from work or when you're out and they're wagging their tail and they're happy to see you. That does nothing but make you feel good. My mother used to live in it was like a assisted living facility, and you bring a dog in there and boy, everybody's, they just all light up. It's a good way to bring people to the light, and they can interact with that dog sometimes in ways that they're not comfortable in interacting with people. We at our clinic actually right now have the fortune of, we sponsor 4 different dogs for the elementary schools in Homewood. And these dogs, that their job is to go to school on a daily basis. And sometimes they're there for the emotional support of a kid that maybe not having such a good day. And they'll find that a lot of these kids that are really shy, they might take out a book and read to a dog, whereas there's no way that they would do that with a human. And so it provides that link between people and animals, and the animals are more than happy to do that, and suffice to do whatever works with them. But here we are benefiting from them on a daily basis, and I do think it lowers people's blood pressures. It puts smiles on their face. It gives them something to center on, to forget their own problems and worries. I mean, we've had enough challenges here through the COVID here, to have a little bit of love and support, and somebody lick you in the face when you need it's really not a bad thing.
That is just great. I want to hear more about this. I've heard the first example you gave about bringing the dog into the assisted living facility. I've heard those stories, and they're great. But tell me more about this program you have with the elementary school. Are they dogs that are boarded there in your clinic that are brought into the schools?
No, these are dogs that actually belong to people that work in the schools. That some of the principals and vice principals and teachers own these dogs. They take them home. They're their own personal pets, but they come to work with them to school, and they come to the elementary schools on a daily basis, and all the kids in the school know these dogs, and they make their rounds and they go to the rooms. And like I said, they just kind of promote goodwill and keep a calming sense going down in situations where, they're really needed the most. Like I said, if a kid's having a bad day from a bad home situation, there's nothing better than a sweet old dog to come, nuzzle up next to him and give them, something that they can relate to, that doesn't expect anything from them.
Well, that's, one of our office up in Knoxville, Tennessee, the attorney that manages, my partner that manages that office, Cindy Lawson, her husband is our office manager, Don, and their children are their 2 dogs, and they bring those dogs into the office every day. It's a law office. People are often surprised initially to see dogs there, but they love having the dogs there. Coming in to see an attorney about money problems can be a stressful situation, but having a dog come up and sniff them and love them makes them feel good.
Yeah. It just, it's kind of a common denominator for a lot of people, that maybe they don't get along with humans so well, but, a smile comes to their face when they see, that dog or kitten, that rubs up on them and just, gives them that unconditional love that they're not talking about. And to go back to the service dogs that I was talking about, these are service dogs that have gone through training to be service dogs in that capacity. So these are not dogs that we just decided, oh, you're going to be a service dog for Hawkend Elementary School. This is a dog that has been trained in a service capacity to be calm and to be, able to handle, kind of commotion of a elementary school type environment and stuff like that. So they are ones that they have to actually kind of apply for, and do you make the grade? Are you going to give this dog the life we want? So these dogs are actually belong to, it's usually a principal or a vice principal at one of the schools that takes the dog home at night, but they come to work every day just like mom or dad does.
When a lot of us first started working from home, I'm in my office today, but I'm doing some remote work, and a lot of the people that work in our offices are working remotely. Being able to be home and have your dog curled up next to you, or your kitten sitting in your lap purring, having a pet around certainly helps out when you're at home. And I'm sure a whole lot more people are going to choose to work from home in the future, and that's one of the reasons why.
It's just a comforting thing, if you're in the middle of a stressful thing that you're trying to deal with, and the dog comes over and they just seem to suck that frustration right out of you.
The concern, I guess, is the flip side of this is when we go back into work on a full-time basis, when people are not home with their pets, are there concerns that the pet that's gotten used to their human being at home with them throughout the day will have any type of emotional or health issues that we should watch for?
And that does bring up something that's we're about to find out when people have to start going back to work a whole lot and stuff like that. Dogs do experience separation anxiety. That's something that, 40 years ago when I first got into the profession, I don't think I ever treated the dog for separation anxiety. It's certainly something over the last couple of decades has become prevalent, and it sounds kind of embarrassing, but we have a significant number of dogs that take Prozac. It's not a bad thing. It seems to help out a lot with them. And, there's also a lot of behavioral modification techniques that you can use to help along with this. And I always tell everybody I'm a really good veterinarian and I'm a really lousy dog trainer. So don't pay any attention to what I say about training your dog, because you can tell by my dogs at home that they're not trained at all. They're just my dogs. But there are going to be a lot of dogs that reality will come. And when mom or dad goes back to work, it's going to be a challenge for them to have that alone time. And, you have to find ways to help take up their day. Do they need another dog at home to keep them home? The separation anxiety seems to diminish a lot when you have two dogs versus one. But, that one dog that's had you around all day long, every day for 9 months in a row, that suddenly has to go back to you working, a 40-hour week, it's certainly going to be a change with them. They're resilient just like we are, but they also take time to adapt to those changes.
What would be signs that pet parents should be looking for, Dr. Mike, that their dog might, or their cat or other pets may be having some separation anxiety as we go back to work?
Typically, the first 30 to 45 minutes that you leave is the most dramatic time. Most of them get over it after that, but that first 30 to 45 minutes, you'll hear them, maybe barking, whining, scratching at doors. I've seen dogs that have annihilated door frames and eaten carpet and, done all kinds of destruction inside the house because they're panicked in that mode. And those are the dogs that need the Prozac, that need the behavioral modification and things to help them out with it. There's a lot of things that we can do. They pick up on the clues when we're fixing to leave. They see you grab your keys. It's like, okay, they're fixing to go right now. It's time for me to get upset because I'm going to be alone, and there's a lot of behavioral modification techniques you can do to soften that and to impress upon them that, yes, I'm leaving, but I will be back. It might be 1 minute, it might be 10 minutes, it might be 4 hours. But either way, I'm coming back. I'm going to be here and I'm going to love you when I come back, and everything's going to be fine. You just have to find that ability to transition to that.
It's you said dogs recognize the signs that we're getting ready to leave. My wife will tell you that our dog definitely knows what our suitcases look like.
Oh yeah.
Whenever our dog sees the suitcases out, he gets very mopey. and
Yeah.
unhappy.
Yeah. They pick up on our emotions a lot too. So like if we're not really wanting to go where we're going to go, they say, why don't you just stay here? It'll be really okay. Well, I'll be fine. But they pick up on that quite a bit. They know exactly what our patterns and schedules are. And when there's a change to it, then it makes them take a look back like, something's different happened here and I don't understand it. And, I need to learn to deal with it.
So I'm going to ask a question out of the blue here. We've talked primarily about dogs, some about cats. What's the strangest animal you've cared for in the 40 years you've been practicing veterinarian?
That's an easy one. Somebody asked me that the other day. There's an aardvark. Her name was Annie the aardvark. When I was in Atlanta, I was at a vet clinic where actually I met my wife, and my wife and I both dealt with Annie the aardvark. She had lost a portion of her tongue because a macaque monkey had torn off the end of her tongue, and we're trying to sew it back on. So that's definitely the oddest animal I've ever dealt with. And I'm not going to make anybody think that I'm amazing Dr. Doolittle and all these animals come to me and I do all this stuff. I deal with dogs and cats. If you've got a snake or a reptile or a bird, I have plenty of buddies here in town that I'm going to refer you to. So I'm a dog and a cat kind of a guy. But the aardvark is definitely the most unusual animal I've ever had to deal with.
Is that typical for most general type veterinary practices? Most dogs and cats are your bread and butter, or?
Yeah, that's where our biggest niche is. Like I said, I do have a couple of colleagues that concentrate on doing exotics, whether it be reptiles or birds or what we call pocket pets, like little gerbils and hamsters and stuff like that. There's people that find their niche and do that, but for the your regular average small animal practitioner like me is seeing mainly dogs and cats, and then you go out in the country and you're seeing people that see more horses and cattle and stuff like that. So we all have kind of our own area that we move towards. That was my comfort zone. I always tell everybody I was a city boy. I know how to treat your horse or your cow, but I don't know what to feed them or how to take care of them other than that. It's my comfort zone is with the dogs and the cats, and that's why I've stayed with them. I never really had that much experience dealing with all the other exotic animals. So that's why I go on and refer those to people who really deal with them a lot.
Well, I've had, as I was growing up, we've had birds. I think most kids have a hamster, a gerbil, or something like that. But we're dog lovers in our house. And I know people that are passionate about their cats too. And I hadn't really thought about it, but the way we treat our animals has changed so dramatically over the last 30, 40 years. I know we always had a dog growing up, but unless the dog was sick, we never went to see a veterinarian. Now we're there every 6 months or so.
It's one of those type things to where the level of care that I'm able to and asked to give to your pet dog is tremendously changed over the last 40 years. Before it was just basic, food and water and, whatever, else that you needed to do with it. But I'm like you, that the pets, when I was growing up, my dad would take our pets to the vet when they were sick, and that was about it. Now I'm seeing most pets at least once a year. And as they get, in our, more double digit age and stuff like that, I want to see them every 6 months because things can change dramatically in a 6 month amount of time. And, it's like, if you think about our age versus their age, they age more rapidly. So seeing them every 6 months when they get over 10 years old is a helpful thing to kind of prevent stuff from going. And our animals are living a whole heck of a lot longer now than they used to. Everybody asks me now, say, well, gosh, aren't you seeing so much more cancer in your dogs and cats now than you used to? And the answer to that is yes. But the reason is that they're living to be 14 and 15 and 16 years old. And that's when those cancers start to show up, is when they're older like that. So, like I said before, the dogs used to be outdoors and, in a kennel or a run outside, and now they're in the bed with us and watching TV with us and sharing our popcorn and, whatever else, that we're doing.
So we talked about pets are indoors more. They're eating people food. what kind of general guidelines can you give us about caring for our pets during a pandemic? I imagine it's important for them to spend, or at least for most larger dogs, to spend some time outside, to walk, to eat the right foods. What type of problems are you seeing, and what kind of general advice can you give us there?
I've seen a pretty good number of dogs over the winter COVID time here that have picked up a pretty good amount of weight, as well as their veterinarian has too. And it's just one of those type things to where, getting outdoors, this is one of those things that it's okay for us to do. Get outdoors and take them for a walk and get the sunshine and the benefit of the extra activity going out there and doing that. There are things that, keeping moving is a very helpful thing. And especially as our, dogs and cats get older, getting up and moving around is a helpful thing. I encourage a lot of my clients when they have an older pet, when they start in their more advanced years, maybe bring in another pet that stimulates them to get up and around more. Aggravation is a wonderful form of stimulus, and a puppy will aggravate the poo out of an adult dog, but it gets them up and moving and around like that, So I think, the inactivity of being indoors, we're all kind of depressed from being indoors and not around people as much. And the dogs, I think they like getting out too, as much as we do. So, taking them out, taking them for a walk and going to the dog parks, a good vent that you can do without putting anybody at risk.
Well, I know during the time I'm working at home, my home office is in my basement and I don't have a window. Every couple of hours, getting rusty and opening the door and walking outside for a few minutes, it makes me feel good. And I can tell his tail is wagging. So
yeah,
I think sunlight cures a lot of ills. And folks, just as an aside here, my name is Brad Bodis, and this is the Bound & Bodis Law Office's Facebook Live. We do these every Wednesday at 1 o'clock Central Standard Time. Our last episode, we talked about getting kids back to school and the importance of getting them back to live classrooms just as soon as possible for all of our kids. But the Bound & Bodis law offices are located throughout Alabama. We're in Mississippi, and we're in the Knoxville area in Tennessee. And what we do and what we've done for more than 30 years now is help people with money problems. We know a lot of you are facing financial challenges right now. And the thing I can tell you that's more important than anything, folks, is don't stick your head in the sand. Reach out for help before it's too late. Just because you call an attorney doesn't mean that you're going to take any sort of drastic action. We are offering absolutely free initial consultations. We'll do them by phone or video. If you think there might be some problems down the line, maybe a mortgage company hasn't been pushing you to make mortgage payments, but you're going to have to make them soon, or maybe you're behind on your car payments. We want to stop foreclosures. We want to stop car repossessions. We want to make sure that your wages aren't garnished. We want to make sure that things are going well for you moving forward. So if we can help you, reach out. Folks, this week on our Facebook Live, I said at the beginning I felt fortunate. Now I feel even more fortunate to have Dr. Mike Kilgore from the Homewood Animal Hospital with us. The Homewood Animal Hospital is located in Homewood, Alabama, which is just outside of Birmingham, and it's really been a fixture in the community now for a long time. I'm meeting Dr. Mike for the first time today, but I've heard of him and about him and his practice for many years. And I know a lot of people drive across town and past a lot of other veterinarians to get to Dr. Mike and his staff there at the Homewood Animal Hospital. We've put the contact information for the Homewood Animal Hospital, the website, the phone number on our screen here. If you're looking for good pet care in the Birmingham area, I highly recommend Dr. Mike and his staff there at the Homewood Animal Hospital. Dr. Mike, we have had some questions that have come in here that are important to people, and we've got just another 15 minutes or so here. If I can run some of these questions by you. So this first one I have here, and you may have already answered it, but person wants to know, is it safe to go back to dog parks where my dog's around a lot of other animals right now?
Yes, I think so. Dog parks present the issue, of people coming in close contact with each other and stuff like that. And so you have to practice your social distancing and stuff like that. But I see no problem with dogs, interacting with each other out there. I don't think that puts anybody at risk at home. The main thing is just make sure that you got dogs that get along and all the dogs that want to follow the rules there and everything like that. But I don't see going to a dog park as a negative thing in any way, really.
That's good to know. Is there anything similar to a dog park for cats? Is it good for cats to be out and interact with other cats as it is with dogs?
I have not heard of that situation for the cats, and it all depends on the particular cat's lifestyle as to, what they're comfortable with. We have several clients that have animals and pets, mainly cats that come and go. And then there's some cats that mainly remain indoors. The cats that remain indoors are obviously less at risk for trauma. No car runs through your living room to hit your cat, and they don't get into fights and they don't have as much trauma. So the cats do better as being an indoor animal. But there are some cats that don't see it that way and they would prefer to go outdoors. But no, I've never really heard of a cat park, like a dog park with it. So people want to take their dogs on play dates out all the time, but I really don't think I've ever had a client speaking of taking their cat for a play date anywhere. So it's
I've never heard of it. And I've always been, like I say, and my wife and I have been dog people, but maybe that's an idea. Maybe something can go out and make a bunch of money and create a cat park of sorts. This next question we've touched upon somewhat, but this person says my dog used to be okay when I left the house, but now there are obedience issues, scratching, tearing things up. What can we do about that? Pets gotten used to us being around.
They have, and like I said, I mentioned before that we do have the advantage we can use antidepressive medicines. Prozac's probably a very common drug that we use for separation anxiety. There's also a veterinary drug called Clomicalm. It's another form of an antidepressive and stuff like that. These are drugs that we can use that can help with this. But I do encourage a lot of my clients to take the avenue of the behavioral modification techniques out there for them. Years ago, when Prozac first came out for people, and when it was still a brand name drug, it was made by the company Eli Lilly, and they went generic with that. And that's what we dispense, a lot of generic Prozac to the dogs because it's less expensive for them and stuff like that. But that company also made Prozac in a dog form, and it's called Reconcile. And I encourage a lot of my clients not so much to buy their drug, but to go to their website. On their website, it's reconcile.com. It gives a lot of good behavioral modification techniques that we can use that can help our dogs ease the trauma of a separation anxiety. Like I was talking about, you're picking up your keys and they know you're going to go somewhere. They see you putting your coat on, they know you're fixing to leave and stuff like that. So they give you tools to help your dog feel comforted in that time, and also encouraged and, knowing that you're going to come back. I think that's the key to it is being able to stress to that animal, yes, I'm going to leave, but I'm going to be gone for a finite amount of time, and I'm going to come back. It might be 1 minute, it might be 2 minutes, it might be 2 hours, but I promise you I'll come back and we'll all be fine when we get back together again.
I have family that lives up in Chicago, highly congested areas, and they have dog walkers or dog sitters that come by during the day. I don't see as much of that in Birmingham. Maybe they're out there and I just don't see them. But if you're going to be gone for 8, 10, 12 hours at a time, is it is it important to have somebody come by and check on your pet while you're gone?
Most of them are going to be okay with you gone, but those ones that are at risk, having somebody check on them midday is not a bad idea. And there are several services in town that do that, that do dog walking for people, when not only when they go out of town, but hey, I'm at work 8 hours, and can you go by at noon to take my dog out for a walk? And there are people that do that, and there's several different firms that have a bunch of bonded, trusted people that will come to your home and do whatever you want with your dog. Take them for a walk, or feed them, or let them out, or whatever like that. So there are those options that we have available to us. There's also a tremendous amount of daycare facilities that we have for dogs right now. I mean, that never happened when I first opened up. We had dogs, and we would board them when people went out of town, but we rarely would have a dog there during the day while they were at work. That's become extremely popular now. And there's a tremendous number of places here in town. We work a whole lot with a Homewood business. It's called Wags and Whiskers, and they're doggy daycare, and they do grooming and dog training and, play with your dogs. There's one near, I live over in Irondale. There's one called We Talk Dog over here, and they've got a very cool outdoor facility with all kinds of, obstacle courses and stuff. And these dogs they're babied and pampered all day long every day. So sometimes they have a little bit better outcome than we can. There's, obviously a price attached to it and stuff like that. But some of those dogs can really benefit from that. So if you have a dog that's having the separation anxiety thing, if they just need to go out and have a little socialization, once or twice a week, then these doggy daycare things can provide that niche that they need, that maybe they're giving that your dog that activity that it needs that you can't provide because you're too busy working.
I'm so glad you mentioned Wags and Whiskers. I was going to make a point of doing that. Our friend Merritt over there is the one that recommended that I have you as a guest in our Facebook Live. I know they do a great job over there. Doctor, I have a quick dog trainer story for you, and it is not Wags and Whiskers. It's an unnamed dog trainer in town. I want to share a story with you. Back when I first started practicing law on my own, more than 3 decades ago, my wife and I had a new Labrador Retriever, and met a young lady that was getting ready to start up a dog training service. And she said, look, I tell you what, if you'll incorporate my business for me, I'll train your Labrador Retriever. So I said, great. Dropped the Labrador Retriever off, set up the corporation for her, got her all organized. Week went by, then 2 weeks, and 3 weeks, and about a month later, she called and she said, look, can I just pay you for that corporation? I just can't train your Labrador Retriever. He was just an untrainable dog.
There are some that are that way. That is for sure. Just like humans.
We had her for a dozen years, and she was a great dog.
Yeah.
So you've talked about medications and behavioral care for dogs with anxiety. Question I have, I know a lot of people will crate their dog during the day. Mm-hmm. To me, that's always seemed like it was unfair to the dog or confining to the dog, but I've read that that's not necessarily the case. What is the logic there, and what are your thoughts on crating a dog while you're away?
I can give you my own personal experience with it. I have 2 dogs. I have a 115-pound bloodhound named Jed and a little 20-pound French bulldog named Pearl. They come to work with me most days. The days that they don't come to work, they're here. When Jed and Pearl are at home and they're not coming to work with me, 9 times out of 10, they've retreated to their crate. That's their home. That's their safe spot. I always tell people, if you have a small dog, especially, and you're traveling, out of town to see relatives, if you bring that little kennel with you, that's their safe space. They can always go to that and feel comfortable with that. Dogs are den animals like wolves, and they retreat to their den, their safe spot, when they either are bored or need to be comforted like that. So they feel safe there. So a lot of people consider a cage as an enclosure and just a way to keep them up. But it's actually giving them their own space with that. And I'll just, as I was mentioning before, I'm not really very good dog trainer, and my dogs are not to be trusted when I'm gone. So when Heather and I go to the store, Jed and Pearl are going in their cage. Yeah, because I don't want to come back to find out whatever they've gotten into, and it just keeps them safe while I'm gone, and can also help. We were talking before about the separation anxiety thing. It's like, if they're just in that one space, then that's a little bit easier for them to deal with and less destructive than a bigger space with it.
It's really fascinating. Again, my perception, not being a veterinarian, is you're putting a dog in a crate. It's unfair. The only time we had done it regularly was with that lab that was untrainable when there were fireworks going on.
Yeah.
We had a crate, and he liked being in that crate at that time because the fireworks, especially as she got older, the fireworks would terrify her, and being in that crate gave her a little bit of security.
Yeah, it's like I said, that's their safe spot that they go to. And you just have to look at it. This is not a punishment and a put away place. This is your home.
Are there, we've mentioned a couple of the facilities that do training and pet boarding and all, pet daycare. Any other organizations that people should be aware of? Perhaps, I know in Birmingham, for instance, we have an emergency veterinary clinic. Any other resources that are important for pet owners to be aware of, especially as we're going through this pandemic, Dr. Mike?
Yeah, I do think, you mentioned the emergency services. We actually have 3 emergency services here in the metro area. We have, it's called VSB, Veterinary Specialist of Birmingham. We have Steel City Emergency Vets, and then we have Emergency Pet Care in Trustful. And they provide practitioners like me the ability to get sleep at night. I could choose to be a working, active, functional veterinarian 24/7, 365 days a year. I'm old, and it would wear me out to do that. So I really am happy and thankful that these emergency clinics are there, and they provide excellent care for when your veterinarian can't be there. We're open from 8 to 5:30, Monday through Friday. But these people, the emergency services, they open up when all of us close, and when we close up for holidays, most of them are opened up for the holidays. So they're helping take care of our pets in times of need when you can't get to your regular vet. So it's very important to have them around.
Last question I have here, I want to run by you. A lot of businesses are offering virtual type consultations during COVID. Are veterinarians able to do the same? If you have a dog with a problem, is it possible to do a consultation without bringing your pet in personally?
We have done that at the very beginning of the COVID. We got all into the Zoom calls and the FaceTiming and stuff like that. Since then, we still, and most clinics here in town are still doing a curbside service. So what will happen is that our clients drive into our parking lot with their dog, and then they will call inside, and we have a technician that goes out, talks to them, gets some history from them, brings their dog or cat into the clinic so that I can do a good exam on them, and then I'll get on the phone and talk to them about it. And it's become a little bit more of a challenge communication wise. Face to face is obviously a lot better form of communication, but over the phone has helped out quite a bit. Like I said, at first we started off doing a fair number of FaceTiming and Zoom calls and stuff, but we've been able to really accommodate people pretty well with our just over the phone and curbside service type that we're doing. So yes, your answer is yes, we can take care of your dog without seeing them. I prefer to see them. Yeah, people send me pictures on their phones all the time, and I always tell everybody I'm technologically challenged, so sometimes I don't see them as well, and can't really get the full appreciation for it. I'd rather see it and touch it as opposed to just kind of get a representation of it. But if I've got clients that are sick and they can't get out, so yes, I can talk to them on the phone, and I can do a FaceTime or a Zoom call with them to at least get them over the hump until, we can actually physically see that pet.
I think part of it, Doctor, is just our age. We're used to seeing people and being around people and adapting to what's clearly probably the way of the future is tough. There's just something about, for me, seeing somebody looking them in the eye and shaking their hand, and for you, just being able to touch and see how that animal reacts is important.
It is, and it just gives you that bond and that feel for it. I can see all the pictures in the world and talk to people as long as, the day is. But when I see that animal in front of me, walking around and their demeanor, I get a lot better total picture of what their mental and physical health is, as opposed to trying to do it over the phone. So I'm ready at whenever we get enough herd immunity, enough people vaccinated, to open our doors back up and have our clients come back in the door so that we can have a little bit better form of communication and a little bit easier thing. But it's been something that it's been a challenge to us, but it's worked. It's allowed us to still do my job. Like I said, I feel lucky that I have a business that I'm able to still provide the services that I need to in a modified form than we used to do it.
And clearly, for you, provide services that you enjoy providing. I can tell that you're a dog lover in addition to a dog doctor.
Yeah, well, it's I kind of eat it, live it, and breathe it, and it's I've had dogs since I was a kid growing up, and I'm sure there'll be a dog sitting next to me on my deathbed.
Dr. Mike, I want to be respectful of your time, and we're nearing the hour, but I always like to give my guests a chance at the end. Certainly, caring for pets, dealing with pets during a pandemic is a completely new issue. Is there anything I've missed, anything you think is important for pet owners to know right now as we're going through and hopefully moving on from this pandemic?
Well, I think the big thing is that all of our lives have changed significantly. And as you mentioned before, some of these changes will remain, and some things will go back to normal or the new normal, whatever the heck that is. And as we change and transition back towards a new form of reality, then our lives are going to change, and there's going to be differences in the way we do and interact and do things, which is going to be an impact on our pets. And like you were mentioning before, if they're used to having us around 24/7 and all of a sudden we're not, it's going to be a little blow to their system. And we just need to be cognizant of the fact that there's changes in their lives as well as in ours. Change doesn't always mean bad things, but it does mean change, and it requires that we adapt to it and learn how to deal with it as best we can.
Excellent advice. Dogs are our, I think they're people that just happen to have four legs, and
exactly.
Same with our pets too. And we got to be conscious of how we're interacting with them and how they're doing. To our viewers, again, my name is Brad Bodis. This is the Bond & Bodis Facebook Live. We really appreciate you joining us today. I've said a couple of times, if you're having financial issues and you need an attorney to talk to, we're offering absolutely free initial consultations by phone or video. Just reach out, contact us through the number that's been on our screen here, or you can go to our website, bondandbodis.com, contact us in that manner, learn a little bit more about what we do. We'll absolutely be glad to help you. I hope you know that just as Dr. Mike clearly cares about what he does and takes care of the animals, we really care about you. We care about helping people and helping reduce the anxiety that financial problems can lead to. If you need help with financial issues, please reach out to us. If you're in the Birmingham area and you need somebody you can trust that's going to love on and take care of your pets, reach out to Dr. Mike at the Homewood Animal Hospital. He does a great job. Don't just take my word for it. Go through his reviews on Google or some of the other websites. 4-star after 4-star after 4-star. And yes, he does occasionally kiss his dog on the nose, your dog on the nose when he's done treating it. But he and his staff will do a great job of taking care of you and your four-legged children. Dr. Mike, thank you for joining us today. We really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure.
Folks, if you've enjoyed what you've heard today, this Facebook Live video and all of our videos, they live on our Facebook page. So if you know somebody that might benefit from this, please refer them back and they can hear what Dr. Mike has had to say today. But until next week, on behalf of Dr. Mike and his staff and all of us at Fine and Bodas, good luck. God bless you, and we're here if you need us. Thank you very much, Doctor.
You're very welcome. Thank you.